IsJustJono. First of all, let me thank IsJustJono for joining me for this interview, volume 13. I hope the number doesn't offend him. And Jono, welcome to the interview. Welcome to the stream.
That's a good number.
Thank
you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here, and especially not being in the game and from home. You're taking that time. I'm honored. Right, let's get right into it, because I think people are going to have a lot of questions for you as we go along. Feel free to type anything you like on the chat. I will transfer all this to IsJustJono. If he is not watching the stream, I'll read the questions out for you. So let me make a small intro for myself first of all. Let's say that I know we have played together before, but I have a very bad memory. I really don't remember it. I don't even know who you are. So in this interview, I'm hoping to rediscover who you are and how we play together. So let me start by asking you, like, where are you from?
So I'm from London, in the UK.
Oh, nice. We have a lot of English people. I mean, no, Alpaca from Devon. I used to live in Devon. So yeah, England is nice. Yeah. So do you play both sides? I've seen a couple of your videos, but
yeah. So I've always made a conscious habit to play both sides. I think that makes you a more impartial player.
So do you enjoy one side more than the other, or both the same for you?
To be honest with you, it tends to fluctuate depending on which side has the upper hand. So at the moment, I enjoy playing Destro more because I feel Order, small scale wise, is the more potent.
Right. So you choose the underdog, to put it that way, when you play.
Yeah.
All
precisely.
right. That's fair enough. Now I know we have a lot of players that they wait and see which side needs help, and then they play that side, which is nice because it balances things out. So do you main something in both sides? I mean, do you have a main, or you play whatever comes along, you don't care?
So I've always been traditionally a tank for my groups, so an offensive tank. So on Order, my main was the Swordmaster, and on Destro, my main was the Blackguard. Then obviously I started playing healers, bit of DPS here and there, but mostly tanks, yeah.
Do you enjoy tanks, or do you play them because your groups need them?
Initially, it was because I was forced to play the tank because no one else wanted to play the tank. So, selfless perspective. But no, I do enjoy tanks, particularly the offensive tanks, because as Markon mentioned and other people have mentioned before, it's a nice mix of damage and tanking. So it's kind of two games in one, if you understand me.
Oh, I understand that, absolutely, because I play tanky NG, I'm the only one. He's like DPS and survival and CC, he can do a lot of stuff.
Healer, everything.
And the other thing I enjoy about my build, or if you like the tanky build, is you don't have to run. I hate running, I hate the whole kiting situation in this game. For me a fight is, you meet someone in the field of battle, you stay there and you fight it. The whole, I run around, I'll give you a dot, I'll go behind the wall, then I come out again behind the tree, and then behind the rock, and then I'll end up in a war camp dotting you. It kinda ruins the game for me. I'm more of a stand-up, you know what I mean? So I can appreciate how someone who plays a tank feels. So,
yeah.
Did you play live at all, or did you start it on this server?
So I did play live. I played with my brother. He's probably 10 times more known than I am. You probably know him as Cause CSI, but I used to play with him on live.
Oh.
But I was more of a solo player on live, which is somewhat ironic if you know my stance in the game now. But yeah, I was a solo player 90% of the time.
So
as a mega.
CSI is your brother?
He is indeed.
Where is... sorry, I mean, not for you, but I'm just gonna ask. He used to stream on the Snotcake account, right? Because I haven't seen him at all.
He's, he was streaming on various different Twitches. Snotcake, Fusion Life, other ones.
Ah,
But yeah,
okay.
he's kind of given up the game a bit because he's kind of got a bit tired of it, I suppose.
Yeah, it can happen. I mean, no, he was quite active for a long time. I'm asking because some people would like me to interview him. He was in my list originally, anyways, because he was with CSI on Order, then he switched, he went to Destra, and I was always thinking he would have some nice opinions and everything. But all right, moving on. This is about you.
Yeah.
So when you played in live, did you also play both sides?
So yeah, I'm not one of these players that has been, you know, realm driven. Like, so I played a White Line, I played a Magus, I played a Marauder, Engineer. It always fluctuated depending on what I wanted to do.
And do you think that playing both sides gives you the perspective, you know, you can balance the game out?
I think it's, if you're talking about balance and if you want to get involved in balance discussions, this is just my perspective, but I think it's imperative that you have at least some experience of both sides. That isn't to say you should know one side inside out and the other, but if you want to talk about balance, like for example, if I'm talking about White Line and comparing that to the Marauder and saying, oh, well, White Line is so much better than Marauder, blah, 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 you should at least have some experience of playing both classes or be familiar with people that play the classes so you can, you know, elicit information from them. So yeah, I would say playing both sides is very advantageous.
Mm-hmm. And you said that you play the Swordmaster and the Black Orc. Did you play those classes on live as well? Or did you main something else?
I did indeed.
Alright, okay. So you continued. Alright.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So I'm not sure, so I'm gonna ask first. Is the Swordmaster the mirror, if you like, with inverted commas, of the Black Orc?
Yeah, 100%.
Alright, so in your experience, since you main both of them, regardless of the balance, which one do you think is like better, more fun or more this? Or do you think they're equally fun and equally good?
I think for me, I've always found the Black Orc to be more fun, partly because of aesthetics. Some of the animations are kind of funny, like, you know, writing the Ghiblies, kicking someone's balls is pretty fun. But I think in terms of overall effectiveness, I would say the Swordmaster probably edges the Black Orc in 6-man. That doesn't mean the Black Orc's bad. It's still a very good best DPS tank on Destro, but I think the Swordmaster's survivability, innate survivability, kind of edges it out in that respect. But for everything else, warband utility and stuff, I think they're both very equal.
You just split the chat in half. On the stream, it's like, no, war, yay. Both.
Sorry.
No, that's the whole point. People have different opinions. That's why we're here, to express ourselves. People will always argue, but it's nice that, you know,
I'm
half
a
of them
figure, so.
half of them are for the Black Orc and half of them is for the Swordmaster. This is the beauty of streaming for me. Both sides are here to express their opinions and have fun and discuss and analyze. So, am I correct to assume that you prefer to do scenarios more than RVR?
You are 100% correct. In fact, you're probably speaking to the person who least likes RVR. So that might be a, you know,
good, because
something worth.
that means we have a lot to discuss then, because I like small scale as well. The RG Markin also likes small scale, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people who are watching us right now, they also love small scale anyways. So I'll keep this on pause there for a second, okay? Do you solo at all?
So I actually, on live, I spent 90% of my time soloing, and even here on Return of Reckoning, I've done a lot of soloing. So my YouTube has videos of me on my solo Magus, my solo Blackguard. So it is something I've always done, not just grouping, but I have done a lot of solo as well.
Hold on a second. Alright, I'm gonna skip the question, putting a note, because it goes with what we discussed already. So, since you played live and Return of Reckoning, if you can answer this question, which one do you think is better? I'll explain what I mean better. On Return of Reckoning, we have a lot of changes on the paths of each character, We have a lot of changes on the gear, the stats. So on an overall, or on an overview, if you like, do you think that Return of Reckoning and the changes that have been done so far made the characters, I'm not talking about, you know, the scene of 6v6 or anything like that, the characters themselves, the classes, do you feel they're better, they can stand better than they did on live?
Well, from the perspective of a small-scale player, I would say that Return of Reckoning is in an infinitely better state than live. One need only look at the comps that were being used on live, and half the classes in the game weren't being used. Whereas in Return of Reckoning, it does have its faults. It does have, you know, some perhaps glaring imbalances, one could argue. But I would say that there's a huge number of classes that are actually viable now, whereas on live that was not the case at all. Like, for example, DPS Warrior Priest was a joke on live, whereas now it's actually, you know, you can get decent results with it. DPS Shami, you know, meaty Shadow Warrior.
Yeah, I hear that the DPS Warrior Priest is very good when combined with the Knight. I don't have one, but that's what I hear, that a lot of people run this combo, or duo if you like.
Yeah, I'd use the DPS Warrior Priest with an Iron Breaker personally, for the armor debuff and the buffs. You need the armor debuff, but yeah, it's very potent here now, whereas on live it wasn't, and the same is true of many other classes.
There's an
So I would
answer
say, yeah,
from
Return of Reckoning.
an experienced PvPer here that says not Warrior Priest and Knight, but Warrior Priest and Iron Breaker. And I'm saying this because there's a lot of people that underestimate the Iron Breaker because of the mechanics, or the thing that doesn't do enough damage, you know, and all that. We answered that question. That one. So let's go now to, with inverted commas, the important stuff. Let's start with, why do you prefer to play small scale?
This is probably going to raise a few eyebrows, but
Good.
I think
We need to
more...
wake up the community.
Yeah, exactly. I think small scale is a bit more individual skill based. I think there's a lot more room for error, individual error, and it's much more noticeable in small scale. Whereas in large scale RVR, like, you can fuck up monumentally, but no one will see it because there's like 1,000 other people doing the same thing. But in small scale, if just one person makes a mistake, it's very easy to pinpoint who did it, what they did, and, you know, you learn from that at a quicker pace.
And in small scale also, I think you need to be, besides more focused, like you said, so they're not gonna be mistakes, but also more skilled. Because I mean, for example, if you take an NG, I only speak for the NG because that's what I play. I can go and throw a landmine in a warband, it's easy. I mean, because it's just going to do damage, the stagger is going to break. But when you play on 6v6, you have to have the skill to drop it in the right place, stagger the right people, inform your party so they don't break it. So it requires a lot of skill from the player as well, I think.
It's true, and it's one of the reasons why I think, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but it relates to, I think, incentives, or, you know, getting more people involved in skill-based PvP, in a PvP MMO, not just 6-man, but warband and stuff like that, is something that should not be frowned upon. It should be something that everyone celebrates and then kind of endorses.
Yeah, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I've read a couple of posts in the forums, I mean, you might have seen them, about like when people hit level 31, then they lose the bolster from 48 to, you know, they become 32 basically, to 40, and they don't have the gear, and people are saying you need to make the game easier. I disagree with this, it's my opinion. But people, it seems like people don't want to be skillful now, they just want to press one button and kill, and that's it. And I think that's like their own direction. What do you think? I think they should leave the game to have its grind, to require skill, to combine things, you know, make people think.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it's kind of amplified here because whereas in live you could level to 40 in a few hours, here it's a bit, I mean, you can level fast here as well, but I don't think it's as fast. And obviously in a small server, small populated server, you're going to feel it a lot more when 90% of the server are, rocking, good gear, renown rank 60 plus. You're going to feel it more. So yeah, I think people are we are living in a gimme, gimme, gimme instant gratification
Yeah.
era now in terms of gaming, which is sad. But at the same time, for a level 31, I do kind of empathize with them. Like, it is an impossible battle half the time
Yeah,
when you
but
lose that bolster buff. But it's a double-edged sword. Like, at the end of the day, it's a small population game. There's going to be some, trials and tribulations, if you like,
true.
on the way to 40.
True, but I'm gonna say this. Being bolstered to 48, it can be quite overpowering. I mean, you're stronger sometimes than a level 40. And I think that most of us have experienced this. I mean, at least that's how it feels in the game. Okay? I think that drop from 48 to 40 that makes you feel weak and powerless, I think it's a good thing. And I know most people are going to say, whoa, what are you talking about? It is a good thing because people go on this power trip because they're bolstered 8-9 levels up. I think it's a little bit humbling, to realize that, okay, I'm not that powerful, I need to learn how to play to survive. I think it helps. But I think people perceive it the wrong way. What do you think?
It's an inherent part of MMOs. Like, progression-based MMOs are all about you level, you get your ass kicked by higher levels. You get to their level and you kick their alts butts in return.
Yeah.
That's the essence of MMOs. It's progression-based. You don't start off strong, you end strong. So I think a lot of it is, whereas some of it is genuine, fair enough, but a lot of it is just incessant whining, if I'm being honest. Like, just suck it up. It's very easy to get to level 40. Play with people. Stop being that solo level 31 dude with green gear, PvE tactics on in scenarios. Don't be that guy. Just, if you want to get to 40, you can do it. And if you want to minimize your pain, you can do it if you choose to do it.
It's sad when people only learn about detones in tier 4. Yeah, true. Sorry, that was a comment there on the chat.
What's detone?
Sorry?
What's detone?
Yeah, true. I don't know what it is. I don't use it. Here's a question though. You're a 6v6 player. RG Macron is a 6v6 player. Macron also did the last that I remember event of 6v6, the tournament. And according to many, including RG Macron on the last interview and personal chats and all over the place, there's this sentiment that says 6v6 is dead. Is it?
In terms of frequency, rivalries, and active players and groups, I would say that it is. If it's not dead, then it's undead. It's in the worst state it's been on, and I've been doing it on this server since, I've been playing here since the server came to be. I've been involved in 6v6, from the get-go, back in tier 2, and I would say that how it is right now is the worst I've ever seen it. So whether or not that's dead, that's subject to interpretation, but it's
so you say it's been lowered as far like frequency when it happens, but it's not absolutely dead. It's whatever things. Here's a question that comes from the Zarbix. It says, I have a question. Does being in a 6-man mean you are an elitist?
See, that's something I find often parroted in Return of Reckoning for some weird reason. I've played a few MMOs, and only in Return of Reckoning have I ever seen the idea of playing with other people equated to elitism. It doesn't mean that you're an elitist. It means you want to play with people in a group-based MMO. You want to be a friendly human and interact with other humans. God forbid. So no, it isn't elitism. Elitism is when you, laugh at others, or take the piss, or strive to be the best at the expense of everything else, in my opinion. But no, playing in a group is playing in a group. That's it.
Okay. I mean, I like the answer. Zarbig says a good answer as well with the exclamation marks. I am reading the chat because IsJustJono is not in the game, and where he is, he only has Discord. So if you have any questions, feel free to type them in. This answer needs to be clipped and sent to everyone. When I get this, is going to go on my YouTube channel, my website, and Twitch as well. So the whole interview is going to be there. You can do whatever you want with it afterwards. So I was saying in one of my streams earlier this week that we need, as a community, to start doing more events for ourselves. I mean, the devs do the Christmas, they do the 2x XP, they do Easter, you know, all these things. But do you think that the community needs to wake up a little bit, get more active, more involved, and start creating events like the 6v6 that RG Macron did, maybe a dueling tournament that Zarbix ran a couple of months, not a couple, 6-7 months ago, I think they were doing something like that, and get more involved and get what we want to have in the game, and then show it, and then maybe the devs might give to smaller parties, smaller groups, and this type of events a bit more attention. Do you think that's possible if the community starts doing it?
I don't want to take a dump on the devs. I mean, the devs have done a lot of good stuff, but I think there needs to be give and take. Regarding the dueling events, for example, I know for a fact that Daniel, the community manager, and Sabella, they would be more than up for hosting regular duel events. 6v6 events, you know, Marconi has done his. I did a few years ago. The exposure has been there. The commitment has been there. So I think there needs to be, you know, if it's deemed worthy enough, I think there needs to be some help from the devs and the community. I mean, there's a lot of stuff the community could do as well. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. I lost you there for a second. But I do have a question. I have to. Are you writing on a piece of paper?
No, I'm not.
Welcome.
Because we can hear something like scribbling moving there. Anyway, sorry, the connection lost there because of Discord. Carry on. Sorry for interrupting you.
That's okay. What was I saying? Yeah, I'll just quickly round it off. Yeah, there needs to be give and take. There needs to be. I think the community could make more of an effort in general, not just in making events. So I know lots of people do roleplay events, and you know, you have Marconi doing his 6v6 events, but we could try and, you know, use the community managers a bit more, I think, because they're good players, they're good guys. So yeah, people working together.
There is an argument that's been raised a few times from some people, I don't know if it's a lot, that there should be more communication between the devs and the people and the people and the devs, like, you know, a two-way street of communicating, more active or proactive, if you like, so that the game can take the course that the people want and devs to make it happen, rather than devs do what they want and we accept it, you know. Do you think that would help? Because I'll give you my opinion first, so you have somewhere to base yours. I think that one side says, you know, if they communicate too much, then people expect too much, and if they can't do it at the end, they get disappointed. The other one is, if they don't communicate and then just things happen, people get pissed off because they don't know what's happening. I think it's a double-edged sword there about the communication, and I stand to the fact that I think we need a little bit more of communication, maybe a small roadmap or an idea where we're going, something like that, so that people have an idea, they don't learn too much, and they don't feel left out at the same time. Do you think we need more communication between the gamers base and the devs, or we are okay?
Well, taken from the perspective of someone that used to be on the balance team, they're good guys. A lot of them are really good guys. They work hard, so I'm not going to shit on them. But even there, being in the team, I felt there could be more communication. So obviously that's going to be amplified outside of the team. So I do think communication is vital. I don't think there's any reason not to communicate. People are always going to have high expectations anyway, and you just have to be prepared for people to have their expectations not met, be disappointed. That's inevitable in games. But communication is just a good thing. Like, you can never have too much communication, in my opinion.
I have a question on the chat. I'm gonna read it just to make something clear, because there is a question either from me or from the chat. That doesn't mean you have to answer it, okay? But it's not a bad question. It says, ask Jono why left the dev team.
Ooh,
That's why
That's a good
I've
one.
made that
I've only-
introduction.
I
You
haven't
don't have to.
I haven't even had my beer. I don't think I'm ready for that. No, I'm joking. I can answer that. Why I left the team? Just different ideas of how balance should be conducted. That's all. You know, being a balance moderator, working on the balance team, I felt that there wasn't enough communication, and there was more of a unilateral approach to balance, as opposed to one that takes into account multiple perspectives of different environments. And I felt that balance was leaning more towards facilitating to pug or unorganized environments, as opposed to organized environments. Hence why I left. It was on good terms. Still got a lot of respect for the people there. But yeah, I just felt that the direction was going somewhere that I didn't really want to be party to.
Okay, that's fair enough. No, I think that's what's the word in English? A full answer. To put it that way. Sorry, English is not my first language. So complete,
That's
a
okay.
complete answer. I think that's the best I can. But the thing I have in my head, anyways. So until somebody asks something else regarding to this, I want to take you to a different topic on the game again. So, what do you think about the new content and the way it is? New content means forts, the upcoming city sieges, the new pairings, the new gear, bastion stairs, all that. You're happy with it in the game? Because a lot of people, some like it, some don't like it. Some people say, why should I go in PvE? Why they're bringing this in? The forts are boring, the mechanics are boring. What do you think as a player?
So I'll tackle each of those individually, if I may.
Yeah, of course.
Forts, my experience with forts is somewhat limited, by choice, I'll add, because obviously as a small scale player I don't really enjoy it large scale in RVR anyway, but I feel that forts are very zergy. Some of my guild mates have done forts. I've seen people post about forts, and it always tends to be kind of AFKing on the third floor, just waiting for the inevitable, and invader gear seems to be given out like candy. So I think there needs to be some sort of contribution system brought back again. Obviously, everyone needs to be factored in, different skill levels, everyone deserves a chance, etc. But I feel the way it is, invaders being distributed right now, is not a good thing, because it kind of encourages the path of least resistance and kind of just waiting for the inevitable, waiting for you to get that invader, regardless of what you do for it. City sieges, I'm looking forward to if they do it right. I think my main concern is, as you know, on live, people could queue for city sieges, and if they came up against a semblance of, you know, organized opposition, they would just leave and then wait to join an empty one. That
Yeah.
needs to be, you know, prevented here. Like, you join, you have to fight. That's it. You get organized. Like, you organize yourself beforehand,
Yeah.
and then you join. You don't wait for an empty instance. That's not PvP. That's bullshit.
On this, for me, I've seen that happening. You know, say if the no balance, you can leave and go to the next one. We've seen that happening in the forts now that the two are active. Like, some people will go in, they have the first push, the shit that doesn't work, and they'll take the chances by leaving the first fort and go and use the portal to get on the second fort that they might think have a better chance of winning. So I don't know if the new thing
Well,
about the two forts is a good addition at the moment.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I haven't really, you know, got involved much in forts, so my experience is limited. But
That's right. I'm just referring to the mechanic, like you said, they can leave and go somewhere else. Before, you had one fort, that was it. Now you can go out and roll the dice if you're gonna get on the next one, which is active.
oh no, I was talking about city sieges. So, you know, on live you could just leave the city siege and wait for an empty one to pop up. That's
Yeah.
yeah, that's my concern. But OG Apocalypse says that they're not going to allow instant swapping, which is good.
Okay. Continue.
Just quickly.
No, you continue.
Yeah, just quickly. Oh, sorry. Okay. The PVE stuff. I think Bastion Stair is a really fun dungeon. I haven't tried it yet. I'm trying it next week. But from what I've been told, it works well. You can get it done within 2 hours.
Welcome,
You know, if you try
welcome.
hard. My issue is not with the PVE content itself. It's with the disparity of rewards between PVE and obviously I'm kind of biased, but PVE and scenarios. I feel like scenarios have kind of had their niche, which has always been offensive gear. I mean, for the past few years, it's been offensive gear for tanks and healers. That niche has kind of gone over to PVE. And then you take into account that PVE already offers you amazing jewels with talismans. And now you can get these amazing weapons that are basically the same thing as the scenario weapons.
Yeah.
With,
Slightly better.
it feels like everything's, exactly, even better. Yeah. It feels like everything's been given to one area of the game. RVR has, obviously has Invader, which is amazing gear for many classes. And it feels like scenarios have kind of been left down in the dumps, which is why I'm kind of, that's my only concern. I feel like scenarios need to have something to offer people as well. Every part of the game should be equally incentivizing.
Yeah, you know what I always hated about scenarios is the fact that, at least on this server, the fact that scenarios have the gear for all the off specs in the game. If you have a Rune Priest, your healing gear is on RVR, which is the main spec, and the DPS, which is considered the off spec, is on scenario. The same applies for all the classes, and it's considered a separate game. It's like this is not part of Return of Reckoning. It's just a side game. It's been pushed and pushed and pushed on the side all the time, and we have a lot of people that like playing off specs, and they're finding it very hard to acquire the gear. And I think it's a certain percentage of the population that should be not ignored. That's always been my issue with scenarios, that they push them aside, although they are a vital part of the game, because until Bastion Stairs and the new PvE dungeons that give gear, the best weapons, in my opinion, were in the scenarios, and people were really struggling to get them, including myself. And like you said, it's a matter that needs to be addressed.
I think as long as all of the areas of the game are incentivizing, no matter what game you play, like even in World of Warcraft, if you're a PvP player, you had to do some PvE if you wanted access to certain trinkets, for example. You're going to have to do stuff that you should have to do stuff that you might not really want to do, but it should be rewarding. So as a scenario player, I've had to do RVR to get Conqueror gear on my, or the Subjugator weapon, or the Genesis gear, or, this and that. I've had to do it, even if I didn't want to, but I sucked it up and I did it. Similarly, I did PvE, Gunbad, Sentinel dungeons, all of that. I did it. So that I don't understand why the same shouldn't be true of scenarios. Obviously, some people don't like scenarios. Small scale PvP isn't for everyone's taste,
True.
But it is a part of the game, and it is a part of the game that people should be encouraged to do, either, willingly or via carrots. And, PvE has loads of carrots right now.
I love the way you put it, via carrots. I'll just jump back to the chat because there's a lot. I've posed it for me just to start, so I don't lose any questions. One follow-up question from Wanaka is, what genre would like for the 6v6 small scale scene?
Sorry, could you say that again?
Yes, of course, I will read that again. What genre would like for the 6v6 / small scale scene? I suppose you mean what would you like to see in the 6v6 scene?
I think honestly, like, all it needs is just incentives, and that doesn't mean giving it overpowered stuff. It just means encouraging it. So if you encourage the 6v6 scenario by having a ranked ladder system approach to it, and of course people will say, well, this game's never been competitive, blah blah blah. That doesn't negate from the fact that many people have wanted such a thing in the game for ages. It doesn't negate from the fact that loads of people have tuned into the 6v6 events. Loads of people have come, spectated, got involved. It is there. People would like this. It would be really good for the server.
Yeah,
So some sort of incentives for small scale PvP, provided they're not OP, and provided that everyone can attain them eventually. So even loser rewards, etc. So everyone feels that they're getting something. Even if you lose against a try-hard pre-made, you still gain a currency, for example, and you can use the currency towards a really cool weapon, something like that.
Yeah.
So everyone can get involved.
The last 6v6, which I streamed and attended, I didn't play, I was there though. I think we've managed to pull something like 400, 500 viewers between all the streams and stuff like that. So it's not a small, small number. Next question from the chat here. It's from Timber BDX, which says, "What is your favorite public quest and why?"
Chapter 2, High Elf. Next question, please.
Yep. Hold on, I'm trying to run through the thing because there's so many.
I think that was a. I think he's taking the piss. I don't do many of the PQs, unfortunately, but I'm sure there's some amazing PQs out there just waiting for me to get involved in. One day.
Well, there's a lot of chatter about, the whole scenario pre-made and PAG and all that, but there's conversation, not a question for you. So my first part of the question, stop there, and then the second part is about you being a streamer. So we'll run through this, my second part, and in the meantime, we'll see if we can get some more questions for you if somebody would like to ask something. So first of all, I know you stream. I've been to your channel myself to have a look, but if I'm not mistaken, you're not streaming regularly. You just stream whenever you like it, or?
Yeah, so it's mostly just for my entertainment, or my guild's entertainment. So usually streaming some either 6v6 fights so that we can look back at them, or this and that. Nothing too serious.
Right. Okay. So you only stream on Twitch? If somebody wants to see those fights or anything, is it only Twitch, or do you do other platforms like Mixer or YouTube or whatever?
I have loads of old 66s on my YouTube, and there's a few probably saved on Twitch. But yeah, Twitch is the only platform I used to stream, and YouTube just has a few videos uploaded.
Did you do something to your microphone? You sound very far away.
Is it better now?
Yes, thank you. I suppose, do you stream just one character like me, mainly like Fixer, my NG, or whatever comes along when you're PvPing?
I stream nearly every class in the game.
Every class in the game. That's good.
Well, yeah.
You do PvP, you do PvE, yes. So last 3 questions that I have here, and then we'll jump back to the questions on the chat on the stream. Do you have any announcements that you would like to make regarding your streaming? Like you're gonna have an event, or you're gonna do something?
To be honest, I'm just waiting. I'll get back into the streaming once I have a better computer. So I need to save up for that.
Oh, that's good news.
The streaming's kind of taking a pause at the... Yeah.
Okay, and the last question for my list is, do you have any tips for new streamers? Something you would like to tell them to help them get on the scene?
This might sound cliche, but I think streamers should be themselves. If you're playing more Return of Reckoning, play to your strengths. So don't try necessarily to emulate other streamers, but be yourself. And even if you don't immediately attract many people, provided you're not a deplorable, horrible person, people might be attracted to you in time. So yeah, play to your strengths and don't feel forced to put on a persona that isn't really you, I suppose. Okay.
And we have one question which is interesting. at the list, which says this: if you had your way, how would balance be handled? It's a
I
tough
think
one.
it's very simple. I think it's first and foremost you balance around assuming competent play. So whether it's 1v1, whether it's 6v6 or 24 versus 24, you assume that the players have spec'd appropriately, they've utilized all the tools they could have, they've synergized with other people. So yeah, you have to balance around competent play. I would do that always from group upwards, but I would also take into account solo and pug perspectives, of course. But I think the most important perspective needs to be group plus, and it needs to be, assuming that the player is, playing as good as they can in an organized fashion.
Yeah, I have a question now that you said that. When it comes to balance, right? A lot of people say that you cannot balance, if you balance for the 6v6, you unbalance the open RVR. If you balance for the open RVR, you unbalance the 6v6. So my question, because apparently you have the experience and the knowledge to answer this for me, it's a personal question, but if you balance the 6v6, right, wouldn't that be scaling up on the 12 versus 12 and the 24 versus 24? I mean, I don't know, do I make myself understandable or?
No, yeah, you make yourself understandable. It's, I mean, balancing around 6v6 doesn't mean exclusively for 6v6. It just means that group minimum, so like 6 people minimum, is where you should be balancing from and around. So obviously 12v12 and 24v24 are very different from 6v6. AoE comes into play, morales come into play, but it simply means that, if you're balancing from 6-man upwards, so from a group, you can kind of multiply that by 2, by 4, and then you take into account the other elements that are going to be, popping up. So like I said, morale dumping, morale drains, AoE is going to be more important the more people that get into the mix. So I don't think if you're balancing, I think people misconstrue balancing from 6v6 upwards to balancing around 6v6 and then using that and trying to get that to work in 12v12 or 24v24, which it won't, obviously. They're vastly different environments, but you simply balance from group upwards, taking into account the various nuances and differences along the way, and I think that makes for a more balanced game.
Yeah, true. I mean, that's I'm reading the chat as well. That's why sometimes I pose a little bit. But it seems like some people have the same thing. You start with a 6v6 to balance it, and that will scale up on its own, rather than trying to balance the 24s and then scale down. And also, there's another comment that says, for example, stop balancing for the solo players that doesn't know half the skill, what the skills do, which is also true at the moment.
Yep, I think that's happening at the moment. So, I think not just balancing around solo players, but I like the fact that he mentioned also people not knowing what their skills can do. That's why I think you need to balance assuming competent play from the individual. Like if you're balancing around a person that simply cries about being killed by a class in 2 seconds, and you just take his word for gospel, you're not going to have balance. You're just going to be, wiping the tears of one player. You need to assume that he's done everything he possibly could to, alleviate that.
All right, we have 2 more questions. One, I'll just read it. Anything in the works for sub 40s when they hit forts, like T2 or T3 zones, perhaps a bag or a chest at end when the fort ends? I don't know if you can answer that, but it is one of the questions there.
Anything in the works?
Yeah.
I have no idea. I'm not on the team, so I can't say what's happening, what's coming up.
And next question is, how do you feel about the prevalence of add-ons in the MMO community, and specifically the add-ons reliance in Return of Reckoning?
Well, I think that's simply indicative of how poor vanilla Warhammer Online UI was. It's incredibly poor. Things like buff head, dot trackers above the head, above nameplates, you know, something integral in World of Warcraft. It's something that should have been innate in Warhammer Online, but it wasn't. I think the fact that people have to use so many add-ons doesn't mean, oh, you can only play with add-ons. It means, well, the vanilla UI is simply so bad that it took so many people making add-ons for it to come to a state where it is playable. Things like aura, okay, you could argue that aura isn't needed. It merely, you know, it augments your play. But things like, you know, buff head or enemy, or, you know, having a guard tracker to show how far you are away from your guard, things like that should have been innate in a game that, you know, talked about how great their tanks were in PvP. These things should have been in the game from the get-go. So I think vanilla Warhammer UI has always been pretty poor.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my perspective on that.
Okay. I mean, I don't have any more questions. I'll give like 10 seconds if anybody wants to ask anything else. We're pretty much all right on time. Just giving a moment. All right. So IsJustJono, thank you very much for giving me the time to come and do this interview. I think it was the best interview in terms of attendance, questions, topic, content that we had so far. Thank you very much for coming along. And hopefully on 2020, we'll go on the second series. It will be a lot more difficult questions and everything. I hope to see you again. Oh, you're getting so much love and hearts. I don't know if you're watching the stream to see the chat, but there's a lot of thanks and...
I am, of course.
Alright, okay.
I wish I was sitting next to you in outdoor. But...
Oh, that's alright. It happens. I mean, the fact that you took the time without the game and everything to log in, I really appreciate it. Alright, thank you very much, IsJustJono. Thanks everybody for being here and attending here with your characters and your...